Hi, everybody, and welcome to our bi-weekly toss the ideas around rumble of thoughts and ideas and whatever, where we show off what we're thinking of writing and saying and learning about for the next edition of the Boring Enterprise Nerdletter. I'm Paul Moderman. With me is Yelena Pervalieva. Say hi, Yelena.
Hi, everyone.
And I will start by kind of talking about what I'm thinking of writing about. So here comes the screen share. And of course, it's a Zoom call, so I have to narrate that I'm screen sharing,
Of course.
Okay.
Sharing my
Share.
screen. Can everybody see my
Sharing my screen
screen?
now.
Yeah, I can see
Yelena,
it. Yeah,
can you see
sweet.
that? Okay, great.
Yes.
Um,
The Zoom
so
ceremonies.
yeah. So let's see. First thing I noticed was I saw a story, Google Glass Enterprise is finally dying. I don't know how many people knew that you could still buy Google Glass, the little, the little crystal that went over your eye that had a camera on it, that was still alive
Mm.
for enterprise purchase, and that is finally dying. Um, there's a couple of weird little things about it. One is that March 15th is the last day that they will sell it, and September 15th is the last day that they are supporting it. So it might work after that, but the support is done. So it's very like that's like what is it, 6 months? That's 6 months
Mm.
of support. So you could conceivably have bought this thing like last week
Yeah.
and not even get support through September, right? So it's very kind of, I mean, I suppose not a lot of sales were happening with
Yeah.
this thing, but do you remember these Google Glass things, Yelena?
Yeah, I was surprised that there is
Yeah,
Enterprise Edition. Yeah, I didn't even
yeah,
know that. Interesting. Actually,
yeah.
it's funny. Actually, had it as my kind of bonus story, so I don't have to do it anymore. But I read an article from a guy basically saying goodbye to Google Glass, and he had some thoughts like why it didn't really take off. So I don't know if you want
Yeah.
to save that for your actual story. To me, as a someone who is already wearing my prescription glasses, it was like just the idea itself. Like, how is it going to work like
Mm.
with my own glasses? I don't look forward wearing yet another pair on top of those. So I think it
Yeah.
had a handicap from the start. Yeah.
It if you remember, you probably don't, but in the early days of Mindset,
Hmm.
we created some Google tools, and
Hmm.
there was a contest, and back then, this was 2014.
Hmm.
One of the prizes of one of the contests was a set of Google Glass
Mm.
glasses, and we did not win. So, but I was really bummed because I
Yeah.
thought we might have a chance to like check it out, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And then of
Well,
course,
yeah.
Google Glass didn't really happen, so who cares, right? But
Well, when they started, they were supposed to be like huge. I think
mm,
expectation was ginormous for them.
mm,
But yeah, it just didn't really work out.
died off.
Like, yeah.
Definitely died off. Okay, so that's one thing. Yeah, so I have prepped four things, so we can
Hmm.
trade about whatever we write about and that stuff. Second thing, Oracle 50% cloud growth projected for next quarter. This is one of those things where like I have these weird feelings about Oracle, where I think I mentioned that like for some reason I get an icky vibe from Oracle people, and maybe that's wrong.
Hmm.
Maybe I shouldn't have that. But Oracle seems like pushy and enterprisey to like an nth degree. And so to see that they're winning, or not winning, I should say, that they're like blowing up in the cloud space is interesting to me to sort of watch and look at. A couple weeks ago, or a couple issues ago, I did a story about Oracle Alloy, which is a
Hmm.
product where like you could buy your own like little data center and have Oracle software helping you run like your own branded cloud that was really Oracle cloud.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know how that factors in here. Maybe it does, it doesn't. But just the very curious note here that Oracle, among all of these cloud players that are blowing up huge for quarters and quarters and years and all that kind of stuff, Oracle at this very moment has the biggest bar of Q over Q growth
Hmm.
going on in those places. So kind of look at some more of that stuff and see what's going on there. I am very curious about that
It's
stuff, even if, yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting choice of title because it says Oracle source, which is present, and then growth projected, which is future.
Projected.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
isn't this like slightly premature celebration, or is this more of
I
a,
think it's one of those
I don't know.
things. I think it's one of those things where I'm sure I think there's a they have the where like the CEO or gives like guidance about the
Yeah.
sales about stuff. I think that's probably where this comes from. Like, I don't know. I think lots of
Yeah, I don't know.
things
It's like
in this
sometimes,
stuff are like BS anyway. So
yeah, sometimes these
we'll
articles
see.
are like someone is trying to probe the stock price clearly, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I reserve my, reserve my reservations.
They're juicing the stats.
Yep.
Um
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's that one.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, the SAP Innovation Award finalists.
Oh,
I
okay.
think these things have been interesting in like both a positive and a cynical sense.
Mm-hmm.
The cynical sense is if you go and look at these things, you comb through it, you can see which are finalists are, oh, that's interesting, and which ones are like, oh, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it. There's some of them are bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I'll probably go look and kind of give a take on some of those of which are cool and which are what's that all really about, right? Because sometimes they publish these decks, these slide decks, and
Mm-hmm.
the deck just reads like your typical marketing case study of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
like company ABC implemented success factors and employees were happier, but there's no numbers and there's no anything, so you're like, but were they? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I have that dual feelings place with these things of like uh there's the interesting things excuse me, interesting mixed with BS in them.
Yeah.
So I'll probably find a couple examples of both and write
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. I feel it's kind of definition of those awards actually,
I know.
because I think it's exciting, and sometimes innovation needs to be there maybe just by itself, just for the sake of it, for the purpose of
Mm,
this award. It's totally
yeah.
fine, but I would be also at the same time curious to look back and see, well, which one of the previous, let's say, finalists or winners, what of that really is significant, what of that really had any
Yeah.
actual impact. And if it didn't, sometimes it's fine, because even from that we can learn something. But I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
that in those awards, that part just never happening. At least I've never read
Yeah.
articles like that, like let us take a look back, and those have been running for a while, so there is significant
Yeah.
data going back to look at, but no one does. It's just, yeah, like innovation award, like every year. But then what? Awards are dollied up, and
Shrug.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. That actually that would be an interesting thing to like because they have if you Google like SAP
Hmm.
Innovation Awards, the previous years like
Yeah.
show up in the results, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be an interesting thing to go back and look at some of those
Yeah.
older ones. I wonder how old they are. God, okay. We're gonna get way off track if I think about that.
Yeah.
Um so anyway, there's that. And then the final thing that I was looking at was this.
Hmm.
Now, I know I said I wasn't going to do Chat GPT, and this is not Chat GPT, but what this is a coding assistant built for enterprise,
Mm.
which is to say, fine-tuned to your code base. So somebody has this is I saw this on Hacker News, so it's backed by that Y Combinator startup accelerator.
Hmm.
Uh, the idea here, of course, is that you feed your enterprise's code to this thing, and then that helps it do even better work for what you're trying to do within that enterprise, which is both, oh, cool, but also like, oh, yeah. Because, I mean, let's face it, we know how it is. Like, if you're developing in the enterprise, sometimes you have a lot of sort of handcuffs on you on
Hmm.
what you can and can't do, what you can and can't look at, what you can and can't incorporate into how you build things. And so as much as I'm like, but wouldn't it be better if it was smarter? You got to kind of play it back for the business who's like, I can't use some of this stuff, and B, I can't feed my data to the cloud thing because then my proprietary data is in the real model, right? So there's kind of dual or competing incentives there for all these various things. So that's interesting. But more to come as I explore more what this might be and find out more about this for the enterprise. Because I think, like it or not, it's coming in some way for the enterprise. And we'll see. This might be just the first of many kinds of things pointed at this. And that's all. That's all my stuff.
Awesome. All right. All right. Thank you, Paul. And I will now share my screen. All right, so
okay, clicking on share
Sweet.
and
Share. Here we go.
Can
So
you
this,
see
yes.
yeah.
Can you see my screen? Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
So this is my article I mentioned that I found also about Google Glass. I kind of read this on diagonal, as I would say. So this person felt very enthusiastic about Google Glass at first, and I mean, him and many other people. And here is his photo.
I did too.
It was like, yeah,
I never had one. But
oh yeah, me neither. I haven't had it, but I've read a lot about it, and yeah, I've seen lots of demos. So he shown here is, you know, very enthusiastically actually wearing the piece. And as I read through it, so he points to one example that actually did work out as a wearable. It's Apple Watch, which took out like almost immediately. And as he mentions, it's maybe because it took existing technology as a watch that everyone wears anyway. Not everyone, but many people do, and it kind of enhanced on it. So I think that might be what kind of differentiated from the glass. Also, yeah, I think with glasses, purely anything that goes on your face, it immediately there are many other concerns, like people wearing glasses, protective glasses, other devices, and just messing up with your perspective, while watch is much less kind of I know, distractive, etc. I want to say, though, that I think even though Google Glass is just kind of dying, but I think the thought and kind of hope of technology that is augmenting reality, I hope that it still lives on. It's just the solution of specific Google Glass. It just wasn't really the right one.
Yeah.
But still, I see there are so many applications. It's just the way they're implemented, they need to be different so that they work better with what we have. Like, for example, we just came back from our family trip to Chicago, which is a big city in United States. If someone doesn't know, we've been there last time 20 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. And before that, when we went 20 years ago, we had to rely on paper maps, and on just asking people around. You go on a bus and you would ask a driver, like, is it bus really going to take me where I want to go? And they would tell you. But these days, no one needs to ask anyone anything because you have your phone and you can find everything on it. But at the same time, when you go out, like, your phone is like it's in your hand. And I mean, I have many words to say about Apple Maps. Some of them are not very flattering, but I mean, it's super confusing. You get out of the subway and suddenly you're on surface. It's very hard to orient yourself. Like, where the heck am I? What is a street name? And city of Chicago doesn't make it easier because they place those street names like anywhere. It could be like hanging up there. It could be like very small sign on somewhere, like on the side. It's like, it's confusing as hell. So if you had your phone, but if it could like project something like up maybe to help you to look at the street and at the directions at the same time, otherwise you're like looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up. So I think that idea, like something like, I don't know, something much fancier, that would be really, really awesome.
I mean, Apple has long been rumored to be working on that very thing for their hardware. So
so I mean, it doesn't need to be like on my head, but if we could literally like project up into reality, I think that would be just very, very awesome solution. So yeah, enough about like buy Google Glass. Hopefully something much more exciting. In other stories that I want to write about, so this is an old video. Again, I'm digging into some kind of YouTube archives. So this video is called "The Consequences of Your Code." You can see it was posted 4 years ago, but it's fresh as daisy today. And as a matter of fact, it's exactly the things that I, as a developer myself, am thinking almost daily when I see the creations of other developers. And I'm sure I messed up many things as being developer myself, but every time it's like, gosh darn it, like developers, like get your shit together. Do a better job. And this person, he gives like excellent example of how he was calling into the systems that was supposed to give him automated answer on important issue, and that was just wasn't implemented very well. But I think any person can just point many things like in our daily lives where we look at it like, man, it's an easy thing for a developer to fix this. I think totally. It would take someone 15 minutes to make huge improvement for someone. So I think it's just this issue cannot be talked enough. Really, it's something that all developers should rewatch probably every year at least. Then in another news, I want to just take a look at learningsap.com. I know it's some people probably still don't know that it exists, still don't understand how it's different from Learning Hub. I know there have been some new content, so I haven't had time to really dig into that and find what exactly was recently posted and how it looks like. So I just gonna use this opportunity to explore like what's going on there, and report back to our readers. So yeah, I don't know, Paul, have you used anything from learningsap.com?
No, and this is to my shame though, because well, one of these Learning or Learning Hub, one of those is like a paid thing, I think,
yeah,
right?
Learning Hub, yeah.
Learning Hub is a paid thing.
That's the one that
and
sucks.
somebody gave me paid for a year or something like that, and I just never used it. And I like these days, my job isn't necessarily like doing like a customer dev project 6 to 8 hours a day for weeks and months. I skip across the top of several things a little bit, and so I haven't had the need to go deep on anything, but like I can tell that it is frankly there's a few acronyms out there in the world these days that I'm like, ooh, I'm rusty on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether it's Learning or Learning Hub or something like that, I know I need to get back out there and polish up on a few things, because I looked at it before in context of one project and then set it aside because it wasn't like everyday kind of stuff. Super long answer for your question there.
I look at it mostly
Very
in
helpful,
terms of in terms of recommending it to or not recommending to other developers, but I haven't really dug in myself, so that would be as good opportunity as any. And my last but not least, so this is very kind of peculiar but interesting blog post on SAP community. At first you look at it, it's like you almost want to look at the calendar. Is it like really 2023? Because it sounds at first something that would have been like big, like 10 or 15 years ago. But it talks about SAP desktop office integration, and someone doesn't know it, there was, I think, Cold Solution, and they're talking about something that has been developed more recently. There is some integration between SAP and Microsoft Office tools. Obviously, some of it, it sort of works. It was never ideal because it relied on that OLE, or however it's pronounced, technology, which is, by itself is kind of a problem right there. But I read it. I found it very curious that, first of all, even though we hear like cloud ready, this is still important. People still have on-premise systems. They still use Microsoft Office. Still, many users want it, need it. So, and this is from someone who works at SAP, and obviously
Yeah.
SAP is still spending time to develop these solutions, which I think is good, because I
Yeah.
mean, there's going to be a long and difficult road for cloud
Yep.
for many companies. So why not support them in the
Absolutely.
meantime? Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it's actually pretty good. And I've read it briefly. I want to reread it and maybe post an update on this, and maybe some opinions on SAP and Microsoft Office coexistence over the years. So this is all mine. I think that's it. So we nailed it once again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So any
you. And so,
closing argument, Paul?
yeah, I think great minds think alike. So we both keyed on Google Glass.
Yeah.
But great minds also diversify from one another. So the rest of our stories did not match up at all. That's great. And to our listeners and readers, when the next issue drops in your inbox, your mind will literally melt out of your skull. We promise. So get ready. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Awesome. Sweet.
So
All
with
right.
that, thanks everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you next
Bye.
time.